Hello everyone, this is Blaine from Mediocre at Best, and today we're talking about the movies I'm most excited about for October 2021. Given that this is our very first upload and the first time I'll be talking about upcoming movies, let's take a moment to look at the scoring system I'll be using to determine how excited I am for this month's movies. It's the same scoring system I'll be using to rate the same movies we're going to talk about today in a review video at the end of the month. Me and Jacob, you'll meet him later this week when he drops his video, have a bunch of content planned, including video game and movie reviews, gameplay videos of trending games, streams, podcasts, and much more. So make sure you subscribe to catch all of that upcoming content. Our scoring system for ranking movies is based on 5 factors: cast, crew, such as directors, writers, and cinematographers, story, including narrative themes and ideas, entertainment, how fun the movie was to watch, and an overall score, which will take into account things like potential production problems, originality, timeliness, and a bunch of other factors that don't cleanly fit into the other 4 categories. It might be a little confusing, but you'll figure it out once we start talking about the first movie I'm excited for this October, Cary Fukunaga's No Time to Die. No Time to Die will be Daniel Craig's last James Bond film. It brings back the usual cast from Craig's 007 run, but introduces some interesting new characters like Rami Malek's Safin and Lashana Lynch's Nomi, the new 007 taking over Bond's role after his retirement at the end of the last movie. Importantly, Lashana Lynch is not the new James Bond. She plays a new 007 in No Time to Die, but the search is still on for Daniel Craig's replacement in the upcoming 007 movies. No Time to Die is directed by Cary Fukunaga, the brilliant director responsible for the first season of True Detective, the only worthwhile season, if you ask me, and Netflix's sci-fi miniseries Maniac. Fukunaga also directed Jane Eyre and Beast of No Nation, but to me, neither hold a candle to his longer, more complex narratives, which make me only a little bit worried about No Time to Die's story. However, add to that the production issues No Time to Die started with. Director Danny Boyle was first slated to make the movie and wrote a first draft, but left over creative differences with the producers. And the terrible story from the last James Bond movie, Spectre, which No Time to Die seems to be leaning on kind of heavily. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Fukunaga's James Bond movie turns out to be a bit of a mess. Spectre was originally supposed to be Daniel Craig's last Bond film, and the ending to Spectre seemed to tie Craig's Bond's run up pretty neatly. Craig even said, when asked if he'd want to do another Bond movie after Spectre's release, "No, not at all. I'm over it. We're done. All I want to do is move on. And if I did another Bond movie, it would only be for the money." Later, however, after Spectre's lackluster reception, Craig would go on to say, "If Spectre had been it, the world would have carried on as normal, and I would have been absolutely fine. But somehow it felt like we needed to finish something off. If I'd left it at Spectre, something in the back of my head would have been going, I wish I'd done one more." Now, it seems that Craig has a significant amount of creative control over No Time to Die's script, and may be the reason why Danny Boyle left the project. After Fukunaga was brought on, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, writer and showrunner from Amazon's Fleabag, was also brought on to help significantly rewrite Danny Boyle's initial draft. Whether or not all these factors have come together to produce a better Bond film won't be decided until we can see the movie on October 8th. For now, stunt and fight coordinators from Age of Ultron and Edge of Tomorrow, VFX from ILM and Double Negative, and an original score from the incomparable Hans Zimmer promise that, at the very least, No Time to Die is going to be one heck of a ride, and I personally can't wait for it. It was difficult to decide the next film I'm most excited about for October. Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch came close with a score of 8.8 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, the film looks beautiful, and the performances of a star-studded cast with actors like Adrien Brody, Benicio del Toro, Timothée Chalamet, Frances McDormand, Jeffrey Wright, and Bill Murray, just to name a few, under a director like Anderson, promise to be absolutely brilliant. However, and wait before you throw a shoe at me, Wes Anderson fans, Anderson's films can get a bit self-indulgent at times, sacrificing well-crafted storytelling and emotionally resonant characters for the technically brilliant but narratively hollow achievements of his cinematic style. We saw this very clearly with his most recent release, Isle of Dogs. From what I've heard of the French Dispatch's complicated triple narrative story structure from several preliminary reviews, it seems that Anderson may have fallen into this trap, but I could be wrong. We'll see at the end of the month. At the moment, I'm much more excited for Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho features actresses Thomasin McKenzie, whose hauntingly beautiful performance in Jojo Rabbit has me eager to see more from her, and Anya Taylor-Joy, whose piercing performance seems to be a sort of spiritual combination of both her roles from Queen's Gambit and The Witch. Last Night in Soho is also a major departure from Edgar Wright's usual directorial style. Known for witty but pretty scary comedies like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, the potential for this nostalgic supernatural/sci-fi horror seems to have always been in Wright, and I'm excited to see him give it full expression. The story follows Eloise, an aspiring fashion designer who is mysteriously transported back in time to nostalgic 1960s London in the body of nightclub singer Sandy. Wright seems to be playing with a bunch of interesting ideas about nostalgia and idolization, and about the script, Wright said, "There's something I have in common with the lead character, in that I'm afflicted with nostalgia for a decade I didn't live in." You think, 60s London, what would that be like? I'm taking a premise whereby you have a character who, in a sort of abstract way, gets to travel in time, and the reality of the decade is maybe not what she imagines. It has an element of, be careful what you wish for. The genuine nostalgia Wright feels for the period means we'll get to go on that satisfying nostalgia trip with him through 1960s London throughout the movie. It'll be really fascinating to watch how Edgar Wright will take that attraction for the period and turn it against us. With tracks from the Beatles, The Doors, Nancy Sinatra, and the Velvet Underground, the soundtrack is going to be incredible, and with Wright's obvious appreciation for classic horror movies, Last Night in Soho promises to be a terrifying new take on the classic period piece drama with brilliant actors, brilliant direction, beautiful cinematography, production design and costumes, and incredible music. But my excitement for No Time to Die and Last Night in Soho can't even begin to compare with how excited I am for Denis Villeneuve's Dune. I have been desperate to see Denis Villeneuve's take on Dune ever since we got those first images in Vanity Fair all the way back in April 2020, a year and a half ago. With a slate of incredible actors like Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, and more, it's hard to imagine how Dune is going to be anything less than fantastic. Add to that, Denis Villeneuve, one of the greatest directors working in Hollywood right now, Eric Roth, writer of Forrest Gump and Munich, cinematography from Greg Fraser, effects from Double Negative, and music from Hans Zimmer, and you have the potential for one of the greatest Hollywood epics of the century so far. Dune draws its source material from Frank Herbert's foundational sci-fi novel, Dune, the same novel that George Lucas would later draw heavy inspiration from for Star Wars. Dune deals with huge, sweeping ideas from conservation and nature, to loyalty and family, to trust and transcendence. Dune will get a day-and-date release in both theaters and on HBO Max on October 22nd, an action Villeneuve has condemned repeatedly in multiple outlets, even going as far as writing an op-ed in Variety to fully express his position. In the article, Denis would say, "My team and I devoted 3 years of our lives to make Dune a unique big screen experience. Our movie's image and sound were meticulously designed to be seen in theaters. And cinema on the big screen is more than a business. It's an art form that brings people together, celebrating our humanity, enhancing our empathy for one another. It's one of the very last artistic in-person collective experiences we share as human beings. And the movie-going experience is like no other. In those darkened theaters, films capture our history, educate us, fuel our imagination, and lift and inspire our collective spirit. It is our legacy." Denis has been open about loving the Dune source material ever since he was a 12-year-old boy, and has talked openly about making Dune since his time directing Prisoners in 2012. There are few directors technically proficient enough in the craft of movie making to take on a project of this scope and scale. Couple Denis' technical skill with his passion and love for the project and source material, and certainly, Dune will prove to be more than just a mere blockbuster epic. It'll be a passionately crafted love letter to sci-fi and to cinema. And that's it. Those are the 3 movies I'm looking forward to most for the month of October. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my review video at the end of the month, where I compare each film's score after I've watched them with their scores from this video to see whether or not my expectations met reality. And if you disagree with the movies that I'm most excited about, say so in the comments below. Comment which upcoming movies you would have picked and why. This has been Blaine from Mediocre at Best, and I'll see you at the end of the month. Thanks for watching.